We welcome you to the Priscilla R. Tyson Cultural Arts Center for our conversations and coffee on this day of October 31st, 2024. I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of the program. As we know, today is Halloween and the occasion for trick or treat. In Ireland, one of the countries where this tradition began, it announces, "Help the Halloween party give some soul cake." A party prefacing the Feast of All Saints and All Souls the next days of November 1st and 2nd. So we enjoy this day, celebrating. So happy Halloween and welcome. Today we're gifted with our artists, Eric S. Murphy and Kari Djuve. We're most grateful to Eric and Kari, who came forward when our scheduled artist a week ago had to cancel because his employer at his local job said he had to go to Cleveland on a business project. What to do? We had only a week to reschedule someone. I put this before Eric last Thursday, who with Carlos, our Channel 3 team member, saw Kari painting. And he, with Eric, called her to be with us today. Kari, come forward. You joined Eric and said yes. Yay, let's give them a hand, a round of applause, of gratitude. Yeah, why don't you two stand? Yeah, another round of applause. Thank you, thank you. Eric, you were with us sharing your paintings in our Conversations and Coffee program by Zoom during COVID, October 28th, 2021, 3 years ago. Yay. Amazing. And we all survived. Asseyez-vous. You can sit. Thank you, Eric, for bringing your wonderful art to us into 2024. You share that you grew up in an artistic family and you were encouraged to create from an early age. Eric recalls getting a John Nagy kit, learning to draw, at age 5. And his 3rd grade teachers allowed him to stay in the classroom and draw birds during recess. Gradually, Eric progressed from drawing animals to human figures and embraces art as a means of exploring both himself and his surroundings. After a time at the Columbus College of Art and Design, Eric worked at the National Cash Register, eventually enlisted in the Air Force Reserve. He shares that continuing his art education and the experience in the reserve was very rewarding. Eric retired from being military illustrator in 1994. He lived in Logan, Ohio for 12 years and showed his art all over southeastern Ohio and galleries and restaurants. Wonderful. We got to do that. Is it still there?
In a couple galleries, yes.
Wonderful.
Not too many restaurants, but galleries,
let's
yes.
take a pilgrimage tour and go and see it. Wonderful. Eric continues to paint portraits, though he focuses more on abstracts, as he will be sharing with us today. Influences in his career are A.J. Vanderelli, Betty Stahl, Stephanie McGlone, Brent Payne. Brent Payne, let's stand up here. Another round of applause. Yeah, it is about you.
Definitely an influence.
And Tom Bellio. Kari Djuve, you were born in Springfield, Pennsylvania. You've lived here in Columbus since 2007. You're a contemporary artist with educational background that includes undergraduate degrees in psychology from Connecticut College in 1992 and drawing from the Oregon College of Art and Craft in 1999. Kari's interest In the human psyche, dreams, memory, and transformation are reflected in her colorful, detailed, abstract, and figurative paintings. Kari has taught yoga, meditation for 15 years, from 2005 to 2020, before becoming a children's art teacher. She currently teaches Saturday morning art classes at the Columbus College of Art and Design. Kari's a longtime student at the Cultural Arts Center, she says, where she finds inspiration and camaraderie through the studio painting class taught by Brent Payne. Her work has been selected for numerous group exhibitions around Columbus, including a spot in the 2023-2024 Rife Gallery Biennial. Eric Murphy, Kari Djuve, we are so grateful you have said yes to being with us today. And take us into the, what? In and out, you said, of the world of abstraction. I like that. That's a great expression. Thank you. Take it away.
Okay, I guess I'll start. So yeah, we entitled our show In and Out of Abstraction because both Eric and I have been experimenting with moving towards and away from abstraction. So I thought for today's talk here, I would tell my story of coming here to the Cultural Arts Center and how the work that I've done here has kind of melded with the work that I've been doing in my studio at home. So I think I started class here about 5 years ago when my kids were starting to get older, and they're 14 and 12 now, but they were in elementary school, and I was able to have a little bit more time for painting. And I had been painting in acrylics and really struggling with it since art school when I developed an allergy to oil painting. And so I came here both because I wanted to find a community of artists, because I'd been largely just doing mom stuff and not around other artists and had more time, and also because I wanted to get back into oil painting. And so I had done a bunch of research on how to paint in oils without using the mediums that I was allergic to, like the mineral spirits and liquid and things like that. So I wanted to try that out in a kind of constructive environment where I'd have help from a teacher. So I came to the class and started just doing the still lifes that Brent was setting up, because I figured I'd do a technical practice, something that was already given to me to try out this new oil painting technique. And so I was painting things like this. This is one of my very first still life paintings that Brent had set up. And as I got more comfortable with the materials, which it turned out to be a really pretty easy transition back into oils. And I was so happy to be working with oil paints again, because I had struggled a lot with the acrylic paints and how fast they dry, and just not feeling like I could move things around in a way that I enjoy doing in painting. So I was back, and then I was getting a little bit restless with Brent's still lives, even though they were lovely. I wanted to find my own stuff to paint. So I would rummage through the little cabinet down there that has all the still life objects and find things to put together in what I found interesting ways. Here's a kind of more technical one that I did with some fall objects. But then I was also getting more interested in telling a story with the objects. And so here's a couple other things I found in the closet in fabric where I told a story about this phone and this flower. And I'll let the story be up to your interpretation. Here's another one where I actually brought a couple little objects from home, the chicken and the little guy, a toy of my son's, and then found the bone in the cabinet and made a little construction out of that. This painting was in the most recent Cultural Arts Center show, and this one was also in a show pretty early on in my time here. So that's the direction I moved to and have continued to practice here at the Cultural Arts Center in Brent's class, making these still lifes from the objects in the cabinet. Meanwhile, back at home, my artwork, which had been kind of fluctuating between figurative and abstract, more on the abstract side, became more and more abstract. And I was playing around with this system of making dots, having a ground of something, whether it was an old painting or just some colors I put down, and making these rows and patterns of dots, and then going back in and finding whatever was hidden behind the dots and kind of bringing those out with color, and then putting more dots. So mostly white dots. So that was one of my earlier dot paintings. And I'll show you kind of how I would start. Like, here's a painting that I made in Brent's class when we had a model. And I thought it was a very unsuccessful painting as it was. So I was like, what happens if I'll dot this painting? This was one where I did the first layer of dots, and I was like, actually, I kind of like that as it is. It makes this strange screen, and the woman is kind of behind the screen, and it's a little mysterious. So I left this one as is, as a finished painting, but ordinarily I would take this and put more dots, maybe going in a different direction, or I'd kind of bring out some of the colors from this and turn it into something more mysterious. All right, like here's an example where I really took the pattern and color, and I left some of the dots, but kind of went more into pattern and color. Here's one where I used different colors of dots. I was starting to use the white dots in conjunction with other colors of dots, working on, instead of rows, sort of zigzag or squiggles of color. And then this one where I do have a figurative element made from dots. And this one maybe tells more of a story that someone could come up with instead of being more mystified. And then this one where I didn't mean to, but I guess I'm referencing the ocean. A lot of these ones, I don't know what I'm referencing until the painting's done, and then I make up a story about it. That's kind of how I work. It's very process oriented. I'm not starting at all with a concept, except for maybe the concept of a screen of dots. But other than that, it's a very playful process where I'm in there moving things around, and kind of, I guess this in and out of abstraction theme is going from something solid like the woman into the little bits that make up that object, turning it really abstract, and then maybe bringing some of the, or a new thing forward, such as actually these paintings. I'm gonna go to these ones next. So over here, these are some of the newer paintings I've been working on, and in this little set, these are maybe the past few months, I used as my ground a still life. Like it could be something like this. Covered it in dots, and then started playing around with the color in and out. And I decided to really let the object still be kind of seen as though there's, like, I don't know, bees buzzing around it and sticking to it, or droplets of water obscuring it, but not totally obscuring it. This was you can probably even see what the underlying still life, it was some bottles and some flowers. This one was a shell. I think it started out this way, a shell and some other rocks and things on a cloth. And again, I like kind of changed the orientation, went in and out until it resembled, I don't know, something else, something that looks like it could be solid, but we're not sure. It's kind of in an atmosphere. Yes.
So how many different layers do you put on there?
So many. These paintings take a long time, and when people watch me paint these things, they're like, oh my gosh, how can you handle this? It must be so boring or tedious, or you have so much patience. That's actually the opposite of my experience of making these. This is very meditative for me. I feel like this is me in my joy place. Putting those dots, it's so relaxing. The hardest part is towards the end, where I actually have to, I don't know, kind of finish it or make it make sense to me. That's where the struggle comes in. But the dot and color thing is relaxing. It's wonderful. So, oh yeah.
How do you actually make those dots with a?
You know, it's not, there's not a special brush. I have tried many different types of brushes. I just get cheap brushes from the craft store because I'm so hard on them. And there's ones that work better than others, but just like a shorter kind of stubby brush is what works best, as cheap as possible. And I just do them all by hand, yeah. And others have asked, why don't you get some kind of like screen and like spray paint through it, or why don't you get some tool that can make that? But there's something about the handcraftedness of them that's really important. And it's me going in and touching the I love the imperfection of the dots. It wouldn't be the same if they were perfect dots. So with these ones, it's sort of like the dots and the objects are all in the same atmosphere. Whereas in some of them, there's more of a sense that the dots are overlaid. These last ones that I'll talk about they're still wet. I'm not sure they're not done. These ones, we just had a critique on them in Brent's class. And here I'm playing with, so I did these still lifes, put the dots on. Now I'm working with different types of patterns, but also the idea that some of the objects are left alone or they're coming out of the dots. So the dots make almost like a netting or in this case, I'm not sure what, some overlay or again, like maybe a screen in between the viewer and the objects behind, which get obscured.
It looks like you've gotten more intentional with the design of your dots.
Yes.
You're actually making a focal point and bringing your eye to
Exactly. Yeah, the directionality of the dots is now becoming more important. Yeah.
What brought you to doing dots?
I really have to say it was when my kids were young, like babies, and I had very little time to paint, and I didn't have any brain capacity to like think about. It's sort of like I just started doing things with patterns, a lot of drawings, and I just naturally started making things that were dotted and lines and just things that were easy to do and didn't require much thought.
You used to buy them candies with dots.
Oh,
It
yes.
used to go in all different colors all the way down. It
Yes.
really set my color. You know, it's like, wow, I like the colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen the Aborigine paintings?
Yes. Yes.
Get inspiration from that too.
Yes, definitely. I look at those paintings and think they're really beautiful. And again, it's like the hand, the work of the hand, even the time that it takes. I find that touching or moving. That a human is still going to be doing this long, like crafting that just takes forever. You know, for what purpose? But to just bring forth something energetically into the world. Yeah, and I would say that my time, so back to the Cultural Arts Center, I never expected this kind of work to sort of come together with this kind of work. It felt like there were two different things. I was doing my technical work, which I haven't really valued exactly in the same way. And I kind of think of them as like practice work or something, as much as I took these more seriously. But Brent's really helped me to look at this work as valuable too. And then here where I'm merging them, it's like, oh, maybe these two ways of working are not so different from each other. Maybe they are all part of the same, you know.
Did you go back and put dots on those paintings if you wanted to?
Oh yeah, I mean, I do. I'm ruthless with all the paintings that are sitting in my studio that are not doing anything in years of past. Goodbye. Every single one of these has an old still life or an old painting on top of them. And in fact, one of them, this one, and there might be others, I don't even know, was an abandoned painting from some old class in the painting studio that it was an unfinished painting that someone else made. It was like a little head in a landscape. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And so I just took it and dotted it and made it my own. So I guess it's a collaboration. Thank you to whoever made that little man's head in the landscape a long time ago. So I'm really not, okay, others have gotten on me. A lot of my paintings are on very bad quality canvas. I'm trying to upgrade my level of canvas, but it works. I don't like to have a bunch of stuff in my studio because it ends up just being junk. Even if it's a painting, if it's sitting around for years, throw it away or recycle it. Yeah.
Dressing your own canvases?
No, I do not. I do not. I am not that gal. Maybe when my kids are out of the house, I will. I don't know. No, I'm too like patient.
But that's exciting that it has all gotten into, you've started from the beginning and then started your own method with the the dots, and then you've experimented with that. And if you're still excited about that, that could be your new voice, how you present yourself.
Yeah, that it has been exciting, and I have to give a lot of credit to Brent and to Eric and all the kids. Oh my god. Oh my gosh, I'm turning 55 this year. This reflects my anxiety about turning 55. I call us kids now. Yes, the kids in my class that have encouraged me.
I use you as an example in my beginners class because of the way that you went from what I was setting up to creating your own work, which I really enjoy. I hope you don't paint over those. So like I like how you were able to find objects, especially with the phone and flower and the toys, and create these little narratives. And you probably had something in mind what you wanted to say, but they're open for interpretation. You know, and I think that's great. Then just kind of watching the dot series develop. And how long have you been doing this? Since your kids were very young?
Yeah, for a while. I mean,
So that's been fascinating. Like the yellow one there, I like how, like, even the dots you don't see initially, so that kind of draws you in. And that kind of looks like a map.
And that's
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of all of these too, is that you can take work that is representational and then make them abstract. And then just even watching the dots develop. So like with that first one, with the model, it's just straight white dots, they're all horizontal, whatever. And then now all of a sudden they change colors, they come in and now you're, working, like leaving some of the objects showing. And then I would be interested to see what you do with these last two, because I feel like they're resolved right now. But it'll be.
they might be. They're just
Yeah.
so new, and they're a new idea, so I'm not sure. They just need to dry completely and have a little space. But I'm excited about the direction. And a lot of times these were born out of just frustration. Like I made this still life. You saw me make it. And I was just like, oh. And oftentimes I'll get to that stage and then be like determined to make it work. But sometimes I get to that stage, I'm like, no, I'm not determined to make this work. I'm determined to either scrap this or do something new with it. And so that's what came out of that.
That one's my favorite. I can't stop looking at it.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, good.
The fire or.
This one. It's very odd to me, but I guess that's just because it's new. Yeah.
Just the movement of the dots, the way you have them flowing and stuff, I think it keeps catching my eye too.
Yeah, that part's exciting to me right now too, the patterns that I'm making. And I'm just kind of responding to the color.
These two.
Oh, these
They are
ones?
special, yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, I guess, okay, before I turn this over to Eric, I brought those for Halloween. This is one other over here, if you can see these. I wasn't really going to show them, but why not? I've got your attention. These are ones where I use dots, but I largely kept the still life intact, and then just kind of, these are just like creepy Halloween-y ones that I, just using the dots in a different way. Those were both from, I don't know, Brent might remember those ones with the hand. And those are all things from the closet. They were probably 4 years ago.
You have a few more like that you will go back in and do the.
Yeah, so it's like these are the ones that I'm telling you are just taking up space. I'm like, what am I going to do today? And I'll just take one out and be like, okay, I'll try this. And
Gift shop.
put them in the gift shop. Yeah, or put them in the gift shop. I could. That's a good idea. All right, am I done?
Kari Diva, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for your attention. I appreciate it. And now Eric Murphy.
And thank you, Kari, and thank you everyone for being here. And I'm thankful to the Cultural Arts Center for the time.
Hey, yes.
Yeah, for the time it's allowed me to come in and take classes and interact with the other artists. I enjoy this session because I have heard from Bev Goldie, gentleman over here. I don't remember your name right now, but I've seen your work, and other people, interacted with Billy Spitfire back there. Some people that have really had an effect, even if it's not immediate. When I walk away and go home and start painting, I remember, well, there's some talent in here. There's some people that have been very unselfish, sharing their work and their time and their advice sometimes. So I appreciate that. I wanted to move things around a little bit because this piece kind of shows a little bit of my transition. As Ellen was saying, I've done some time in the Air Force Reserve. I did a lot of portrait work, caricatures, realistic stuff, drawing airplanes and whatever. This is an example of the realism that I was doing back then. It's under glass, so it might have a reflection on it, but it's in the gift shop now. I just stole it for a minute to show you guys, but this is part of my.
I really like the sunset. It's really, you can tell where the sun's coming and the water. It's just lovely.
Thank you. It was a challenge to try to. I found a photograph I really like. I love sunsets. I've done them out of my head before, but I thought I'll use a reference, and this came out kind of okay. So I wanted to show that to also demonstrate that while Kari has a nice way of going back into her old work and pulling some beautiful things out of it, I've also done that, but in a different way. For example, two of these paintings, this one, and I'll hold it up. This one used to be a lady, and her head was up here, and her body was down here. It was from a figure drawing class that I took, and I started painting it, and I thought, okay, I'm almost done. And as soon as I turned it to the side, I thought, oh no, that's a landscape. And so I started putting more things in that were more elemental to landscapes, and I kind of liked it. The dot pattern, different than Kari's method where she's meditative on her dots and putting them in by hand, I have a screen that I can just spray through with, and it creates this dot pattern. And I kind of, the process is okay, but it's not as meditative. I'm more trying to get a result when I do it. So it's different. It's different, but I still like the effect. This is more recent. I just finished this a couple nights ago, and a lot of texture. This was also painted over. It was more realistic. I just started in with collage paper. I put reds in certain spots, and that's it's all acrylic, so it's a gel. There's a matte medium and a gel medium, and a gel, the gel gets it like a glossy, well, I should say it's a gloss medium. It's liquid, it gives you a shiny finish, and it protects the painting. This is more of a matte medium where it doesn't reflect the light so much. So, and I use more of a matte medium on this piece too. But I guess I'm saying that in trying to go from figurative art to something more abstract, I've started using collage work. I learned some of that from Todd Camp, and tried to employ that in my work more. This was a piece that I used a lot of dripping on, and I really like this. I did this a couple years ago for an abstract show, and I just started with drips at the top of the canvas and let them flow down and turn the canvas and let them drip the other way. Then I went back in and started painting sections, and that was fun.
Hold that one up a little.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just really, really nice.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Designs in the middle, so it's focused in
It's
there.
like
It's
it
beautiful.
fades, and then when you get into the middle, you get this detail.
Thank you, yeah.
That's really makes it great.
Thank you. I was trying to get some atmosphere in that one, so that was fun. That showed over at the Vanderelli Room a couple years ago with a big abstract show. They had some wonderful abstract artists, and I felt kind of honored to be in with that show. This is more recent. This is one I worked on off and on for weeks and weeks. One of the artists just passed away recently, and Jean Weissman. She was a fabric artist, and she did some wonderful work. And she gave me a bunch of scrap before she passed away, a bunch of scrap materials and so forth. And so I used a lot of the material. You can, if you come close, you can see it glued on material. And this part of this is a pattern fabric I cut out and put on. So a lot of things went into this one. I even put some fiberglass sections and attach that to it, so it gives you a different shine in different parts of the piece. It's all on masonite. It's all, you know, pen and marker and acrylic paint and whatever else. Not the kitchen sink, but a lot of things. So I had these frames, and that's why I started that. And it inspired me to cut the masonite to this shape because I had frames that I wanted to fill. And that's sometimes what I do is I find a frame really cheap I like, and I'll just say, okay, I got to put something in this frame.
It looked like a statement, like it's behind bars.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like you did that intentionally for another meaning. I mean, it really is strong for that reason too.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It looks like how you work the green and the pinks and all that, so it's really, it makes it pop.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I like that big one.
I'm going to talk about the big one. Thank you. I appreciate that.
The big one, you know, I'm seeing a volcano and a mountain in the back and trees in the front. You know, the more you look at it, the more you get into focus.
I appreciate that because that's, I wanted that to be something you could look at and see something different each time. Ma'am, you were?
Yeah, I see a lot of metallic sheen work. Is that just the way the paint light hits, or are you using metallic paint or metals?
I'm using some metallic paint. Actually, to move into this has that sheen, but I use some bronze acrylic in this one, and this one has
Again, because
this one.
yes, that is so gorgeous.
Thank you.
Up higher up.
Every angle you see it at. That one's
There's a tool I got that I work into the paint to give it a lot of the groove lines you can see, and then if you lightly touch the paintbrush over those lines, you get the texture like in there. And then, like you were saying, there is some bronze paint. The acrylic has bronze and silvers and golds, so I do use some of that in the paint too. So that's, plus I got this this spray cans of like fluorescent paint. So that's what you see in some of this pink, and the oranges and the greens is that fluorescent. I put that sometimes in as a base coat, and then I can paint over that and mix acrylic over top of that and do layers. And that's what takes the time, is doing glazes over the paint with acrylic. You thin the paint out and you just paint over it. This,
Your triptych, your 3 pins, it looks like a tinted copper from this angle, so that's why it's very beautiful.
thank you. Thank you. If you get closer, it's probably not so beautiful, but thank you. There's,
It's very tactile, I think people realize.
yeah, it is. If you touch it, you've got some edges and some material that really sticks off the surface of the masonite. So it was fun to do. There's some material on here. I cut some nice patterned, material you'd make a dress or a shirt from, whatever I could find that seemed like it even has. This one might even have a cigar band. Oh, that does. Yeah, I had a friend whose husband smoked a lot of cigars, and he didn't throw away the band that was on them. So she had a box full of these old cigar bands, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I started using them for collage, and they make a nice base sometimes.
I think it's a Cuban.
I don't know where these are from, Bev. They're really cool, and they got different brand names I never heard of, but they make a nice texture on the paint sometimes visually. They just, they look like something cool. So patterned.
Did Jean Wiseman see that? With
No,
the
no, she
materials
passed
that
before.
are of hers that are in there?
She did not. She did
And
not see
where's
this.
one or two of them again?
Some of this thread here, she gave me a bag full of thread that I used. And so these gold and yeah, all the thread, if you come up and look close and you touch it, all those threads are from Jean.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and there's some other things she's given me that I think I've used, but That might even be from her too. I think that is. She just had some thread scraps and some material, a bag of those she gave me just like literally a week before she passed away. She was giving things away, knowing that, you know.
I got some of it too.
Yeah, okay, it's good
A
stuff.
dear legacy.
Question.
Ma'am.
This is a beautiful pieces, this tree. I like it so much. I'm just asking that why you add the plastic sheet on it, because it has a reflection. Somehow it cannot be seen. You know?
Yeah, I do know. That was kind of my way of fixing things.
Repeat that
Yeah.
question then.
The question is why did I add the fiberglass, the plastic? Because it shows where you can't see it. It reflects the light, and you can't see it. You have to you have to really move around the piece to see all the things that are going on. I apologize for that. If it was an easier way to fix it, I would have. But this is behind the scenes. You asked a good question. Some of these I cut them too thin for the frame and make them again. So put the panel in there, and to make the panel sit in the frame well, I put them in certain spots to keep the masonite in the frame. Okay, so once I did that, then I used some adhesive. Some of it was black, some of it was acrylic paint, just to keep that masonite from moving in and out. So these were put in to stabilize the masonite. And I did it in one. I thought, well, this needed it. This one may not have needed it, but I still needed to put some in there to keep it consistent with the other pieces. So it was really a mistake on my part that caused that. And sometimes my work will show that. I'll make a mistake, mess something up, and I'll try to recover with some little inventive, engineered way to correct it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So.
It won't be such a problem when you have it displayed in a show where the light's a little bit more controlled. It's got all this crazy light.
Right. I think you're right. I think I've never really been that distracted by that myself, because I always look at it and I can move around it and see it.
See all of it except a little strip across the bottom where there's a reflection.
Yeah,
From there on up, I can see it.
that's like Brent said, the light hitting certain parts of it will do that. That's
From back here, that reflection is what's giving it that metallic patina copper feel. So yeah, it works.
okay. Thank you. All right, thanks so much. The most recent that I've done in here, because this was done at home. This was done at home. This is what I started on this session at the Cultural Arts Center. This was a collage that resulted from some of the time I spent with Todd Camp in his seminar, where we learned how to do collage. I had never used collage that much, and I really admired how he applied it in his abstract painting. So I did have some paper from years ago that had a wonderful bronze, kind of greenish, bluish pattern in it. It flowed. So I tore a couple pieces off of that, here and here, put them there and that side. And I thought, what can I do with that? And so it took quite a while to figure out what I was doing. And I went in different directions. I had, believe it or not, after I did the collage part, I laid it on the ground and I dripped red paint, this red paint, all over this section here, and much of this was red. I didn't know what to do with that. I was like laying that down there, and I thought, that doesn't look right. That's too much red. Went back over it with some paint that I used several things. It's kind of, I have to think back. I used modeling paste. I used some clear gel medium. I was sanding on a piece of sculpture that I started downstairs in the stone carving class. And sanding that, I got this dust. And so this dust I mixed into my paint. So I got a nice texture here. It's just all kinds of things that came together to try to make this. And when I got that layer done, it still didn't look right color-wise, and I had to go back in and sand. So some of this was done at home, and when I finally got here, I finally got in the studio here with it. Then I started putting this together that, well, maybe these could be like trees. And I don't want them to be trees, but like trees. and then and then make this maybe some kind of perspective like shadow, but I don't want it really dark. Keep it warm like this. And so there were some things that kind of came together at the end. I wasn't really finished with this until I asked Brent about it last week, I think, and he finally said, well, you know, it looks resolved. And I kind of feel like it is. I feel like the things I did with the up here with the collage, and I had some collage letters here, and thought about putting more in. Brent says, no, you could do that, but you don't need to.
Back here, it looks like Shangri-La. I mean, it looks like a misty rainforest. That if you were an explorer, you might come, you know, overlooking a hill, looking down onto that. And you can see almost like streamlets, but that mist, it just ties it all together.
Thank you. That's interesting because I did want it to be mysterious, and I did. When I put this blue in here, I liked what it did against this tree line, whatever that is. And that's why I moved it down here too. But yeah, I wasn't really sure what it was going to be, but I knew that I wanted it to be something that was inviting. So I'm glad that it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and the red, where it looks like where the tree is, for some reason, it just makes the whole thing.
Oh, thanks.
How long have you been working on that?
Off and on, probably for a few months. Yeah, I couldn't tell you how many hours because a lot of this one is looking at it, stepping back, and just not even doing anything to it, just walking away frustrated sometimes without even touching it.
Shiny green really brings it out too, that green right in there, yeah.
Yeah, this was the paper, but I did put some turquoise paint I found on top of that to bring that out a little more here, here, and here. So there's some things going on that I did have to enhance the collage paper because it didn't really do it the way I wanted it to. And I thought, you know, this was last minute stuff, some of this here. This is some of the original red. This is the original red that I dripped on.
A dream quality to it, don't you think?
Thanks. Yeah, kind of a good dream sometimes, but not all the time.
Nice little dream, summer dream.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I really do because I know you've painted a lot. You paint a lot of landscapes and a lot of things that have impressed me. So that I appreciate that. I just felt like for a while I didn't like this and this. I felt it was a dirty color, and then the more I worked with it, I worked this warmer color into the palette with the overall flow. It seemed like it kind of worked, and the blue kind of helped too. The blue, this blue here and here, and you wouldn't believe how many layers are up here. There's all kinds of color up here. This is part of the red, and this is part of greens and all kinds of stuff up there. If I sanded it down, you'd see all kinds of stuff. I could even see the red here.
You'll see like a map, almost like
It's there.
or something.
Yeah, I think there's even some. Oh yeah, I did sand some of that off. You can sand that off. I sanded it off, and it's got some of the light color that I had here too. So that was a fun painting. That was a challenge. I'd like to do more like that. I just like to have somewhere to put them. You know, there's a gallery that Todd introduced me to, Todd Camp. He had a show at Centophany in Hebron, Ohio. And I went and visited them, and I got a couple of my pieces accepted there, so they're on the wall now. And I want to do some things like this and see if she'll show these there, maybe try to sell them. But that's my goal. That's my goal, to try to get more work like this, but larger, because she wants larger pieces. Get them done and shown. And I will say, this was where I was. I did a show one time called Jim Crow Must Go, just a few years ago. This was one of the pieces in that one. And I've kind of gotten away from this. I told Brent, I said, I've moved away from the political a little bit. I mean, I still may delve into this, but as far as an artist trying to sell art, I found that, and people told me this, some people don't want to buy a lot of political art. They don't even want to, look at it, engage in it. And in some of the shows that I've done, I've noticed I'll walk around and stand by someone looking at my art, like this piece, and they'll look at it and just look, and they, and I'll try to engage them. What do you think? And okay, it's okay. And some people don't really even want to look in there and talk about it because I guess it brings up either what, religion, politics. Some people don't want to talk about that.
I see unity in it. You know, I see a free America. You know, we're all getting together alone, and you know, it's.
Well, thank you. That's what it was about. I called it A Little Liberty, and I remember the song, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. So I thought I put the little kids down there and then put the liberty, and even though the actual light is not showing and the stripes are here, it's still there. And I used the lady's face from a magazine, and this lady was like starving and had a kid at her breast and real sad look, and it really impressed me. So I used her face for the portrait on here because I thought,
Looks like attitude, like, are you kidding me?
yeah, it's got that too. It's got that too. So yeah, that was one of my favorite pieces in that show, and I did enjoy engaging with the people that would talk about their beliefs and their thoughts about our system. Go ahead.
You know, when you're having a show, it's always interesting to see the people looking at your pieces, you know? You know, you got one piece over here that you might love, and everybody's focusing to the one that you really hated. And it's just so mind-boggling, you know? Why do they do that? And then they make comments like, you know, you just learn to keep your mouth shut.
Well, the next time I showed some of this art, I showed this Jim Crow show with another show of abstracted, like spacescapes, like a lot of just, nebula, sky nebula and stars and stuff. And so that show showed in a church, and it also had one of my pieces that was the political part, had just words on it with a illustration of a Union flag and a American flag. In the middle, it just had like slavery, Reconstruction, emancipation. These words were on it in the middle, and I got some reaction from that. One lady came and just started talking about how basically it wasn't even correct history, and she's going on and on and on, and I'm listening, and I'm like, I said a couple words to her, and I realized I'm not going to change her mind about how she thought about this. And some gentleman came up after that, and he says, I teach history and whatever. And he says, this is beautiful. He said, this is the way it was. And I'm like, okay, cool. I thought I'd done my research, but, someone who, she wasn't familiar with some of the stuff, and she's saying, no. And I'm like, if
That's an opinion that everybody
And it's thought.
Yep.
it is, and that's what I
Which
like.
is great. It's like what I love about it is that it's open enough that it's not going to repel anybody, even if they ultimately disagree with it, whatever they think the message might be. And then I'm just enjoying the formal elements of it. I mean, I love the crown. Well, it's very sharp, And that the background, I love the way that the clouds, they're kind of threatening, but beautifully painted. And then, of course, the Little Liberty. I love the title. Beautiful painting. So I wanted to ask also, I'm glad we ended up here, because these abstract paintings are very recent, right? Like this is where you just started this summer, right?
The abstracts are recent. The one there is a couple years old, the one on the bottom of the floor. But these other ones are very recent. As a matter of fact, the last couple weeks for the two that I showed in the session today in the critique. So this is probably the most recent realism I've done, and that was kind of to prove myself I could still do something with this one. Yeah, this is one that I always enjoyed sunsets, even back 30 years ago when I was painting. Thank you.
Well, one person mentioned the sunset, which is beautiful. And my favorite part of it is the bottom where the waves are crashing into the sand. You can really feel the form of the waves there.
Yeah, if I took the glass off, you could actually feel I built the paint up a little bit too with some modeling paste, so that helped too. But Yeah, that impressed me the way when I looked at the picture, I saw the shadow underneath the waves, and I really liked just just the weight of them. It looked like they really had some form to them. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna,
You know,
oh, go ahead, Jeff.
you know, you talk about not wanting to necessarily do more political pieces or that they don't necessarily sell, but you have to be true to yourself, number one, of what you want to express, and there will be a place for that. And Columbus, Ohio is only one market, it's one place, and it's the middle of the country. There are whole other sections of the country that would really appreciate and have theme shows for things just like that. So don't give up on it, because those are amazing.
Thanks, Bev. Appreciate that. I do enjoy doing, and I enjoy poking and prodding and making people think about things maybe they don't want to talk about sometimes. Discussion's good. I think discussion's always good. We don't have to fight. We can always, express our opinions and walk away. We've shared, we've understood maybe, and got a better look at things.
I like that these two are side by side. Do you have a title for the abstract painting?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I'll take suggestions. I don't really have a title. I like that Shangri-La thought that, you guys mentioned. That's
You got red in there, and almost looks like this is disappearing. And then the other one too, the one that you first held up,
this one.
yeah, it almost looks like columns and archaeological ruins. And then the red is on there, and again, it almost looks like an empire is crumbling, or
The World Trade Center came to mind when I was.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't even remember which way this is. I think it's this way. I think I was showing you guys. I think I was showing you upside down, but it's similar.
I thought it was a waterfall.
Yeah.
It is like a heaven. I name it heaven. Heaven.
Really?
And the other one is like a Chinese word. It's reminded me of the deep,
Wow.
scenery. Yes, it is completely like Chinese work. It's nice. It looks.
Thank you.
It's mostly Chinese.
Well, I feel like on some of these abstracts, I don't know what you're doing with your titles, but untitled is an easy way for me to get out, because sometimes, like one that is not here, but my wife saw the painting and said, "Oh, is that a face in there?" And I'm thinking, "No, I didn't paint a face. Where do you see a face?" And she told me, and I thought, "Oh, I see what you mean now." So I don't know if a title takes away from it or adds to it when some of these are, And I could give it some really strange,
I think it's good. Reminded
Song
me of
number
some-
7 or
give
something.
us some idea. And as she said that sometimes we put the name after, sometimes we have this decided have a concept. But anyway, it is the thought, the artist things that name some.
I appreciate all the input on the titles, because, like I say, I don't really have an idea, and I don't know that these were that important to have titles for me. I mean, if it's going to sell it, I'll adopt a title. If it's going to, that's where I'm at with these. Yeah, and that's what I'm.
Sometimes you need a committee, a few people, and they sit and think about titles.
Okay, that's good. I like that. Get a group of people to come up with the title. That's good.
This one, Valley. This one, the big one.
Yeah.
Valley. It's reminded me of between two mountains and the tree.
On the other hand, like one of my favorite painters is Giorgio Morandi. And all his still lives are called still lives, and all his landscapes are called landscapes. Yeah.
That's as far as he went with it.
Yeah, and he did pretty well for himself.
Morandi, is that Morandi?
Morandi, Morandi.
Okay, yeah, I think
I'll bring him a book.
I think I might have seen some of this stuff before, but
But
thank you.
if you can think of, but then again, if you can think of a creative title, I go through that, and sometimes I come up with something, and then I decide that it's pretentious, and then I back away from it. And stuff.
I like it. It's kind of the way kids name pets. What's your dog's name?
You know, it's just kind of like,
It's innocent and cool.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate all that.
Does any of these abstract pieces have a title?
This is not. I mean, this is one of my. A few years ago, I called this one. Believe it or not, I was still in my political thoughts. I called this Bloody Scrabble. Now, because I could see, I was thinking about gentrification, and I was thinking about a map, and so I got into this different interpretation in my head. But when I might have even shown it like that, Bloody Scrabble, but you know, as I look at it, it could be interpreted a number of ways. So I don't know that I have to have that. I don't know that it needs a title, but that was one that I did have that.
Title, like there's this balance of making it an interesting title without, again, hitting people over the head with it. I'll leave it at that.
And how did you title Our Lady of Liberty here? Did you title that?
Little Liberty. I just
Little
called it
Liberty.
a Little Liberty. That's what I thought of, because I was thinking of the nationalities of humanity, and I'm thinking about freedom and applying to not just Americans but everyone. But that's we're supposed to be a light of the world. We're supposed to be as a nation. So I thought, well, this would be a good way to express that, but realize that it's not just people of one color. It's all.
Yes. I feel like she's saying to me, how do you like America?
Well, she's saying a lot of things.
Yeah,
right.
she is saying a lot of
things. There's probably a little frustration there too. It's like, yeah, you got all these people here, and who are we actually serving?
Yeah. Oh, I come watch my kids.
Oh, come watch my kids. And that's, I like that, Crystal. Come watch my kids. Yes, sir.
Look at these two. I meant to say is that even though one is representational, one is abstract, that you can tell that they were painted by the same person, because you still have the same palette. If you look at that sky and you look at the top space there's similarities. So it's kind of interesting to see the representational painting and the abstract painting next to each other, like you probably in what you've been doing with all art is abstract. Everything is colors and shapes and lines.
I'm not going to challenge that, but I'm going to ask the general population here. I think that obviously he's got art education, and he's going to look intensely on things. But does everybody see that could have been the same person doing both those? Really? Well, you would too. You also have the education experience, Bev. So you fall out of the category of just everyone, general population. But I did ask, so thank you. Thanks for seeing that, being observant that way. What do you think, Billy? You think it looks like the same artist did both? The same artist did both this painting and that? By the palette and the... Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I guess it's a fair assessment.
The color in her face looks like that medium on the big one that you have.
Okay, well, thank you all. I think we're ready to close here. I think
wonderful, Eric.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kari, come on up. Yes. Marvelous. We're so grateful for your being here. And giving us energy and joy for the days ahead. We're headed for a few challenging days, are we not? And you lead us into joy. Thank you.